Open mic time. Joining me now is Adam Hochfelder, the editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, and the summer edition cover is a bit more controversial than in years past. It's an artist rendering of a Texas and Texas A&M player with the line, "Play the game." Now, I've said ad nauseum, they should renew this rivalry, and that's the position of the magazine as well, right?
Absolutely. We're not advocating on behalf of Longhorns or Aggies. We think the state deserves to have the Aggies and Longhorns play each other. I mean, it's a rite of passage. You have your Cowboy game in the afternoon, you have dinner, and then you watch the Horns and the Aggies play. It's taken away from all of our Thanksgivings, and we want to have it back.
And you look at other states that care at all about college football, and if you have two flagship schools from different conferences, they find a way to make it work. South Carolina, Utah, I know that was one that you mentioned, Florida, obviously. Sure. Why can't Texas do it?
Well, right now, it's a set of bruised egos, I think. You know, if you're from the Aggie perspective, you would say, well, we found something better, and they've had some great success with the SEC. If you're from the Texas perspective, you're thinking, well, they left us, so why should we play them? But at the end of the day, the state's better off. The fans are better off. Some of the best memories you have if you're a Longhorn or Aggie are beating the other team. And at the end of the day, college football is fun. It's meant to be fun. And when they play, we think it's a lot of fun for the state. So we'd like to see it happen here.
How does the grassroots effort begin with Longhorn and Aggie fans to make this happen?
It's, you know, you tell your athletic director, you tell your season ticket holders, you know, make that push upwards, and you know, it's just a matter of fans supporting it, writing into the athletic directors, talking to folks like yourself on TV. You know, you vote with your pocketbooks, and you know, that game on Thanksgiving, Texas still plays on Thanksgiving, and they're playing Texas Christian or Texas Tech. It's just not the same thing. So you know, hopefully, if there's enough groundswell, the teams will play again and go back to the rivalry we all love.
Let's stick in the Big 12 here. TCU and Baylor missed out on the playoff, but both are preseason ranked in the top 10, some in the top 5, depending upon who you ask. Have these two supplanted Texas and Oklahoma as the biggest rivalry in the league?
This game is the biggest game of the year. I'd say it might be the biggest game in all of college football next year.
Really?
We have them in the top 5. We have TCU at 3, Baylor at 5. Last year's game was one of the best games of the year. If you remember watching it, TCU had Baylor pinned on the mat. They were done, but as the norm is with Baylor, they made a great comeback, ended up winning, and you know, 61-58, I think the final score was.
That's right.
Late field goal. Unbelievable. This year they play in Fort Worth, so there's an opportunity for them to get revenge, TCU. But you know, Baylor fans call Art Briles the Great Art Briles. TGAV is their nickname, and you know, that lad's got things going. He's just got you know, 10 wins are just the norm in Waco. So we think that's going to be the great game of the year. Picked them both in the top 5. We have TCU winning. We have TCU getting revenge in Fort Worth and winning the Big 12 conference, but it could go either way.
And if you ask those on the periphery of each program, they don't like the other too much. They're very honest about that.
Oh, sure. You know, TCU still holds a grudge about being left out of the original Big 12. They came back in and obviously have shown that they're worth it, splitting the conference last year. And Baylor fans got that position, or at least that's how TCU fans seem to think. So TCU had a bone to pick with Baylor. If you remember those last couple games before TCU joined the Big 12, it was still great football. And then last year, top 5 football game I've ever seen, just back and forth with Baylor winning at the end.
Let's move on to the preps. A few Metroplex teams hoisted state championship trophies last season. Allen may be without all-universe quarterback Kyler Murray, but can they make it 4 straight?
Well, they have the best player in the state in Greg Little. He's offensive lineman. Now, we have him as our best high school player in the state. You normally don't see offensive linemen at that level, but he was ready for college last year. We have them as the #1 team in the state. We think they're going to win. We have Soto also as contending for the state championship. So, yeah, we think Allen going back to their new stadium. Remember last year they had to play basically every game on the road as the stadium was being redone. That's done now. They're back at home. I think they're going to have a great year.
As far as the other classes are concerned, anybody you think has a real shot at winning the state title?
You know, Aledo out in Tarrant County, Aledo is a great football program, and they just reload every year. We think they have a shot to do it. They have been competing for state championships several years in a row. They've won several in a row. We think they're going to do it again.
State championship games are likely moving, maybe to San Antonio, all because the Cowboys are playing a home game the Saturday night of championship weekend. Will the move affect our chances of taking home some hardware, you think?
Well, it's the first time since 2009 that the games will not be in Arlington. 2010 through 2014, teams got to stay in their own beds and take the bus from their school to the game. So now it'll be interesting to see. Now Houston is the favorite. That's what the rumor is. San Antonio is still a possibility, but teams from North Texas are probably going to have to get on the Yellow Dog bus and drive down to on I-45 or I-35, and that should be announced in the next few weeks.
And it's interesting because you look at those rounds leading up to the championship, a lot of those teams still get to play either in AT&T Stadium or nearby, even if it's something like, just a 3-hour drive thereabouts. Sure. They're still in great position. Now it looks like it's going to be a little bit trickier. Maybe it makes some of those Houston teams, San Antonio, Austin teams a bit more of a favorite, perhaps?
Well, if this show was being based in Houston and we were Katy fans, Katy has come to the state championship in Arlington the last several years and lost. So they finally get a chance, if the games are in Houston, if that's the way it works out, they get to play, again, sleep in their own beds. But you know what? Change affects both teams. And so Katy has been to the state championships the last 3 years and lost. This will be interesting now that they don't have to travel. Maybe they're, that change affects them negatively. We don't know. We'll see.
South Dallas, another area where we've seen a lot of fantastic football, especially in the last few years. Cedar Hill, DeSoto. What do you feel like those teams are looking at as far as rebuilding and trying to get something going?
DeSoto, we have making the state championship. DeSoto is absolutely loaded to bear. They are a great football program. We think a new coach this year. We think they're going to do fantastic. Probably win the state championship in one of the two divisions. Great athletes come out of that area all the time. Skyline is another program that's always competing for state championship. We think DeSoto this year is going to break through and win.
As far as recruiting goes, I know one of the things that a lot of high school coaches tell me about is they want to get those local programs going again. TCU obviously has done very well recruiting from within. SMU is starting to do that as well with Chad Morris. Do you feel like they're starting to make a little bit of inroads?
It's unbelievable to me. It's interesting you ask that. It's unbelievable to me the inroads in just a half a season that Chad Morris has had. I mean, he is among the college football brethren, the fraternity of high school football coaches. He's really one of the few people that can brag that in the state. So when he goes out there, he's done the things that they've had. He's probably driven a bus at some point with his team, and no one else can say that. So he's from Texas, played his high school ball in Texas, coached here in Texas, won a state championship here in Texas. So we think that, and it's already starting to see him making inroads with programs. SMU is now considered in some of the larger, bigger schools, some of the better blue chip recruits. They're in the top 5, and that's all because of Chad Morris.
One more promo for you. Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine is on newsstands everywhere. You can also pick it up at texasfootball.com. A fantastic read. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.